right, so get ready because we're about to take a deep dive into something that might seem a little out there, I'll admit. We're going to be exploring the law of attraction, and specifically through the teachings of, well, this is the wild part, a non-physical entity named Abraham.
Yeah, it sounds a little spooky at first, I know.
It does. It does. But believe me, it's not about ghosts or anything like that. We're really going to be focusing on the practical side of things here.
Absolutely. We're looking at the book, The Law of Attraction, the basics of the teachings of Abraham, and, it's all about how we might be able to shape our reality.
Okay, so these teachings, they're channeled through Esther and Jerry Hicks. And I get it, that might sound a little woo-woo, maybe even a bit too out there for some folks, but I got to tell you, there's some seriously useful wisdom tucked away in here.
Oh, yeah.
So let's unpack this law of attraction, and see if we can really wrap our heads around how it all works. Where do we even start?
Well, the very core concept that Abraham puts forward is this idea that that which is like unto itself is drawn. It's kind of like, birds of a feather flock together, right?
Yeah, I've heard that one.
Yeah. So basically everything in the universe, and that includes our thoughts and our emotions, it all vibrates at a certain frequency. And according to Abraham, what happens is we end up attracting things that, well, they vibrate at similar frequencies.
So it's not just about like thinking happy thoughts. It's more about emitting a certain kind of energy that pulls in similar energies.
You got it. And get this, the more intense the feeling behind a thought is, the stronger that magnetic pull becomes. And Abraham even gives this really powerful example. It's about a mother who, in a moment of pure desperation, lifts a car off of her child.
Wait, she lifts a car?
Yeah, and her desire, her need in that moment, it was so strong that it allowed her to just completely overcome like the normal physical limitations.
Wow, that's pretty intense.
Yeah.
It kind of makes you wonder, what are we really capable of if we could tap into that kind of energy all the time, right? But, this brings up something that I think a lot of people ask when they first hear about the law of attraction. It's like, does this mean that if I just picture winning the lottery, it'll magically happen?
Right.
I've tried those vision boards, But honestly, I always struggle with the feeling part. It's easy to make the visual, but how do you really, truly embody that feeling of like already having what you want?
Yeah, it's definitely not as simple as just, wishing for something. Abraham makes this distinction between wanting something and truly allowing yourself to receive it. It's about, aligning your thoughts and your feelings with the thing you desire.
So there's a difference between, say, daydreaming about winning the lottery and deeply believing that it's actually possible for you to win.
Exactly. And the key here, the real secret ingredient, is the feeling. When Jerry Hicks, the one who channeled these teachings with Esther, when he read Think and Grow Rich, it wasn't just the ideas in the book that made a difference for him. It was the change in his belief system, like this genuine feeling that abundance was possible for him personally. That's what actually led to his financial turnaround.
Huh. So it's almost like our beliefs, they act like a filter, right? We might be sending out these positive vibes, but if deep down we don't actually believe that we're worthy of receiving, then it's going to be so much harder to manifest what we want.
That's a great way to put it. Those subconscious beliefs we carry, they play a huge role in what we end up attracting into our lives. Like if we have these limiting beliefs about, money, relationships, or even about our own abilities, those beliefs, they can create a sort of resistance. They block us from receiving what we're actually trying to attract.
Okay, so then how do we start to identify and, maybe even change those limiting beliefs? Is it as easy as just saying, I believe I'm worthy of abundance, or is there more to it?
Well, it's probably a bit more complex than that. The first step, though, is becoming aware of those beliefs in the first place.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's more than just saying it. A lot of times these beliefs, they're kind of hidden, right? They're working behind the scenes.
So how do we even become aware of them if they're, buried so deep?
Well, one way is to really pay attention to our emotions, how we're feeling.
Oh, okay.
Emotions are they're like a compass. They can point us toward what's truly in line with what we want and what's creating that resistance, that pushback. So if we're constantly feeling anxious or frustrated about something in our life, well, that might be a little clue that there's some limiting belief hiding out down there, just under the surface.
So if I'm always stressed out about money, it's not necessarily because I don't have enough, but maybe it's because, I don't know, maybe deep down I think I don't deserve to be wealthy. Exactly, that's a perfect example. And another way to kind of uncover those beliefs is to look at our self-talk. Like, what kind of stories are we telling ourselves all day long about who we are and what we can do?
Hmm.
Are we telling ourselves these empowering stories, or are they more, limiting?
Makes sense. I don't. For me, I have this tendency to get stuck in these, like, what if loops. You know,
Yeah.
always thinking about the worst case scenario.
Uh-huh.
And it's almost like, well, maybe I'm attracting those negative experiences just by, constantly worrying about them. And that actually brings up something else I've been thinking about. If we attract everything into our lives, good and bad, does that mean we're responsible for all the, all the bad stuff that happens too? I mean, it's easy to say focus on the positive, but when you're dealing with real problems, it's not always that simple.
Right.
Right? So how do we kind of reconcile the law of attraction with, the fact that we also have to acknowledge and deal with real issues in the world?
That's a great question. It's a really important one. And Abraham actually talks about this directly. What they emphasize is that, well, we don't intentionally attract bad things, but by focusing on them, on that negativity, we can actually amplify their presence in our lives. They call this creating by default.
Creating by default, what's that mean?
So it means that if we're not actively choosing our thoughts and our feelings, well, then we're basically allowing our external environment to kind of dictate our vibrational frequency. We're soaking up the negativity from the news, from social media, even from just random conversations. And then, well, all that negativity, it gets reflected back to us in our own experiences.
So it's like if I'm constantly watching the news and getting all worked up about everything bad happening, I'm actually feeding that energy and maybe even attracted more negativity into my life.
Exactly. You're basically tuning your frequency to that negative channel, and that's what you're going to get more of. But here's the good news, the really empowering part of this. We have the power to choose where we focus our attention. We can choose to focus on solutions, We can focus on acts of kindness, on the beauty that's still out there in the world. And by doing that, well, we raise our vibration and we start to contribute to a more positive, collective consciousness.
Okay, that makes me feel better.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not about ignoring the problems. It's more about shifting our focus to what we can control, which is our own energy and our intention.
Exactly.
But how do we actually put this into practice? Is there like a step-by-step guide to using the law of attraction?
Well, Abraham does outline a few key practices that we can use. And the first one is awareness, which, we've already touched on a bit. It's about really paying attention to our thoughts, our feelings, our beliefs. Notice when we're feeling that resistance, when we're feeling blocked. And also notice when we're feeling aligned and flowing. Our emotions, they're our guidance system, really.
Right. So like if I'm feeling super stressed or just frustrated, that's a sign that, maybe I need to check in with my thoughts and see if they're actually matching up with what I really want. So what else can we do? What are some of those other practices?
Another really powerful one is something Abraham calls the creative workshop. And this is basically, it's a dedicated time and space where you just allow yourself to visualize and to feel the reality you want as if it's already happening.
So it's like like a supercharged vision board session.
Exactly. And it's about using all your senses. Like really imagine, what would it feel like to have achieved your goal? What would you see? What would you hear? What would you smell even? The more vividly you can imagine it, the stronger that magnetic pull you create.
Okay, yeah. I can see how that would help you to shift your mindset and really start to believe that it's possible. What's the third step?
The third step is called segment intending. And it's essentially setting intentions for specific moments or areas of your life. So, for example, you might set an intention for a safe and enjoyable commute to work, or maybe for a really productive day at work, or even for, a nice, harmonious family dinner.
So instead of trying to manifest your whole dream life all at once, kind of break it down into smaller, more manageable chunks.
Exactly. It's about being present and intentional in each moment, rather than always striving for some future state of happiness. Now, I'm curious, is there anything you've been wanting to manifest in your own life?
To be honest, I'm still kind of wrapping my head around this whole allowing concept. It sounds a bit passive, like just waiting around for things to happen. How is that different from just, wishful thinking?
Yeah, I get that. It's easy to think of it that way. But allowing is not really about being passive. It's more about, about releasing that resistance, letting go of the need to control everything. It's about trusting the process, aligning yourself with the energy of what you want and believing that it's already on its way to you.
So it's kind of like a mix of taking action towards our goals, but also trusting that the universe is working with us, is helping things along.
Exactly. And that trust part, it requires us to, to let go of that need to control every little detail. We can set our intentions, we can take steps in the right direction, and then, well, we just got to allow the universe to kind of orchestrate the details. And sometimes, it works out even better than we could have planned it ourselves.
Okay, that makes sense. But what about those really big desires, the ones that seem kind of unrealistic? Can we really attract anything we want, no matter how huge or crazy it seems?
Yeah.
Have you seen this in your own life? Like, have you seen people manifest things that seemed impossible at first?
It's amazing. I've seen so many examples of people manifesting incredible things, everything from finding their soulmate to healing serious illnesses to building these huge successful businesses. And the thing I've noticed is that the thing that separates the people who succeed from the ones who don't, it often comes down to their willingness to expand their beliefs about what's possible, to really open up to what might be out there.
So it's not about limiting ourselves to what we think is realistic. It's more about daring to dream bigger and believing that we deserve to receive those dreams.
Exactly. Abraham often says that creating a button and creating a castle, they both use the same law of attraction. It's just applied to different intentions. It's not that some things are harder to manifest than others. It's more about how big we're willing to want something and how much we believe that we deserve it.
Wow, that's pretty mind-blowing when you really think about it. But it also brings up some pretty deep questions,
Yeah.
Like, if we're all attracting our own realities, does that mean there's no such thing as, like, random events or accidents? What about free will? I mean, how does that all fit in?
Yeah, the idea of free will, that's where things get really interesting when we start talking about the law of attraction. It's a bit of a paradox, isn't it? Like, if we have the power to create our own reality, does that mean everything is already decided?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to wrap your head around.
Abraham suggests that we have free will, but it exists within this larger framework. It's like there are these universal laws and forces that are always at play. Imagine you're a ship captain, right? You've got the power to steer your ship, but you're also navigating within the context of the ocean's currents, the weather patterns. You can choose your direction, but you also have to work with the elements.
So it's kind of like a dance between free will and destiny. We get to choose our path, but there's also this bigger cosmic dance happening that's influencing our journey.
That's a great way to put it. And part of mastering the law of attraction is learning to surrender to that dance, to trust that even when things seem to be going wrong, there's a higher purpose at play.
Yeah, it's tough to remember that sometimes, especially when you're going through something really difficult. It's easy to just ask, why is this happening to me?
It's natural to feel that way. It really is. But what if, instead of asking, why is this happening to me, we asked, what is this experience trying to teach me?
That's a big shift in perspective. So even those experiences that we label as bad, they could actually be guiding us towards something better, something bigger.
According to Abraham, yeah, that's exactly it. Every single experience, whether we see it as good or bad in the moment, it gives us a chance to learn and grow, to become more than we were before. And often it's through those tough challenges that we discover our greatest strengths, our resilience.
This has been an incredible deep dive. I feel like I'm starting to see the world in a totally new way. So for everyone listening, what does this all mean for us, for our lives?
Yeah.
What's the one big takeaway you hope people walk away with?
Well, I think the most important thing to remember is that we have way more power than we realize to shape our own realities. By becoming aware of our thoughts, our feelings, our beliefs, we can start to attract more of the good stuff, the stuff we want, and less of the stuff we don't.
It's like we're all walking around with these super powerful magnets, but most of us don't even know how to use them.
That's a great analogy. And the law of attraction, especially as it's explained through Abraham's teachings, it's like a user manual for those magnets. It shows us how to line up our energy with what we truly want and create a life that's more in tune with who we really are.
That's a powerful thought. Like Abraham says, you are living in a wonderful time.
Yeah.
You have the opportunity for expansion. Maybe understanding this law is, maybe it's one of the keys to unlocking that potential. This has been an amazing deep dive.
It really has. It's an invitation for all of us to explore and experiment and discover the incredible power that we all have inside.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the law of attraction. We hope you found it as interesting and inspiring as we did. And until next time, keep those magnets pointed in the direction of your dreams.
Loved this video?
Smash that like button and subscribe so you don't miss out on future content. And don't forget to order the book, link below.